P320 is sus, popping off, hurting people who trust. No trigger pull, yet it's blasting through thighs, leaving cops and soldiers with scars and cries. From Philly to Georgia, your guns a disgrace, unintended discharge blowing up in your face. Over 100 lawsuits, yeah, you're taking that L. Your pistol's a hazard, send it straight back to hell. P320, you a dangerous joke.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful night tonight. Tonight, we are joined graciously by LFD Research Matt, also known as Heinrich. So tonight, we're going to be discussing their video, which represented a possible failure of the P320, getting it to go off on its own. But before we get into all of that, how is your night going tonight, gentlemen?
It's going fine.
Good to hear. Yeah, I'm really glad that you reached out to me about a week ago, right after your video launched, I want to say, on Instagram.
Yes. Mostly because I was traveling for work and couldn't get your email address off of YouTube mobile.
Yeah, but no problem whatsoever. And you showed me your video. I shared it around on my community page, Instagram, because it was one of the few cases that people have been asking for, the diehard SIG defenders, about why can't somebody recreate any of these issues? Now, as we'll get into, I'm sure there's plenty of other issues to go into with the 320 that we're going to talk about. But before we do, can you guys give yourselves a quick little background and your history with the 320 and what you guys do that might be relevant to the discussion tonight?
How about you start off, Heinrich?
Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be long. Trying to think, like 2012 or something, I picked up a P250 at a gun show and it fit my hand great. So I fell in love with the 250 fire control group and the modular pistol, swap everything together. So I had a number of those, bunch of magazines, bunch of grips, all that stuff. SIG announced that they're going to come out with a striker pistol, the first striker pistol that SIG's done. Trying to think if they ever have, but if they had previously, it's been long enough I can't even remember it.
Mm-hmm.
So soon as the 320 hits the market, I go get one so I can use that in competition. So I've been on the 320 train since the very beginning. I've got a full size from like April production 2014 and a
early SIG 320 adopter, and you've been using them ever since, basically?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as it was out on the market and I could get a hold of one, I had one. Picked up a compact in 2016, X10 when that hit the market. P365. So, trying to remember exactly how many 250s I've got. At least 3. So, this whole extended family of modular pistols that use the 250 and 320 parts. A whole pile of them.
Nice. And then a little bit of your background, if I remember correctly. I don't know if this is private, but your work revolves around engineering.
Yep, I'm got a degree in mechanical engineering. My day job is running CAD, designing truck suspensions and stuff. Then I also work for a company here in Northwest Iowa doing part-time design work for firearms and triggers and stuff like that. So been doing that for like 10 years. So semi-pro firearm designer, and professional CAD jockey and engineer.
Right. So you have engineering experience, you're well acquainted with firearms, you shoot them a lot, and specifically the P320 platform since its inception in 2014.
Yep.
And Matt, you are the other half. Well, I should say the other Matt. You are the other half of LFD Research channel, if I remember correctly, where you guys posted the most recent video on it NDs today.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of the media half of us. Heinrich's the engineering half, and well, as you can see there, I kind of play around with a bunch of stuff. We've been doing the YouTube thing for close to a decade, so we've got some really crazy stuff out there, like loading
1
a
mile per second. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did shove a 55 grain pill in excess of a mile per second.
What? Sorry to derail, but what case did you put it in?
300 rum.
Okay, yeah, that'll do it with a little plastic Sabo shell in there.
Yep. Though we actually did find that the rum, if you can still get it and get some of the factory ammo, that will take out level 4 plate
Oh yeah.
with factory load. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And then your experience with the 320 platform?
Picked one up 2017, 2018, and then somewhere around 2022 I realized, okay, my wife needs a smaller grip, so do I try and get a bunch of HK stuff for her, or do I just swap and get a new frame for one of the 320s I have and get myself one for running in competition?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. That's a great selling point of the 320, right? Is all the modularity and the different parts interchangeability that you can have with it. So, but to be clear, the reason why I ask that is you guys are not anti P320.
No.
Heinrich, you've adopted it, used it in competition since its inception.
I've been using it. I've used it as soon as it came out through the drop safety thing back in like 2017, through all of this like uncommanded discharge. Wasn't very convinced because, well, from looking at it, I didn't see how stuff was happening, but I was also looking at pre-voluntary upgrade pistols.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, you got your specialty cut and modified back in 2016 to run Mag 40 with it using a red dot.
yeah, back when you still had to like ship your slide to someone to have it cut for an RMR, and the only pistol red dot was Trigicon's RMR. I was running that and took that to the Mag 40 class for a week, and so like pretty serious about this platform. And yeah, then some of the new information's been coming out, and it's like, well, let's bring all of our, like every single one we've got and put them on the bench and do a deep dive now that we have some people have been seeing some theories about what's going on.
Particularly your theory with the 1045 part being in there. It's like, hey, you've got a 10 millimeter. Let's include that in it, because we'd never considered, oh yeah, you'll make them drop compatible. It's obviously a bigger platform.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah. Like,
well, and that's the thing is people have made videos on how they are compatible. I believe, Richard, you sent me a link not too long ago where Mac from Military Arms Channel, actually, he had a video saying that the 10 millimeter, 9 millimeter, they're compatible so you can use them interchangeably, which you technically can, but it causes problems, right? Or at least it can cause potential problems. So when you guys started hearing about all the problems, is that what really set it off for you? Like, hey, we should try and see if we can recreate this. We both have 320s. I have a mechanical engineering background. I just like shooting the things. So let's see if we can get one to go off, basically.
Kind of. Also, we really got annoyed with the whole "it ends today" because it's like, cool, we have a competition planned for this fall, and do we want to risk a multi-day competition on a gun that may or may not go off? I'd really like to know whether or not it's safe.
Yeah, like,
right, because that's the other side of the coin for me, because I never owned 320s. So for me, it was always just memeing on them. But if I was actually an owner who carried one every day, I would be very invested in its like actual propensity to shoot myself, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Hearing about the the mix up of the 10 millimeter and 9 millimeter bars that's alleged. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, here's a real thing that we can actually test. And because I've got a 10 mil and we've got a bunch of 9 mils, we can start comparing parts, maybe mix and match, and see if that's going to actually cause a problem.
Which is crazy because I looked at it and it was like less than 2 hours of us looking into it. We started having striker drops without pulling any parts out of fire control groups at all. No mixing and matching fire control group
No.
parts, just slides and fire control groups. And oh, this is bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what leads us to this. So this is the video. It is their channel is linked in the live chat to go check it out. But this specific video, just to show you basically what happened, the quick highlight.
Lawyers be denying, no problems here. Deny, deflect, disrespect, no problems here. No problems here. Blame the host, blame the user, anyone but us, anyone but us. Yeah.
Is the fact that they got the gun to go off live on camera without a trigger pull, which in that previous statement from SIG is like, hey, our guns can never go off without a trigger pull. And in like 2 hours, you guys started to figure out, hey, there's problems here.
Yeah. And again, it's weird tolerance stuff too. So as you can see, most of the time in the video, we're not playing with the configuration that went off there, but all we did was just use a different slide and a different grip frame because we kind of figured that it was mag pressure pushing up on it that would prevent it from happening most often, because we had a couple hours just out at the range, right at the berm, messing with it and not having it go off. And we hadn't thought that day to actually go out and live fire the thing. It was the following day when I made the video going, why the hell didn't I live fire this? That's like, oh, I probably need to pursue this more.
Well, and another really good thing, and why I really like the video, the way that you guys did it, is because you start off with all the highlights of SIG statements, then you show it going off, and then you follow it up.
SIG Legion mark on the back.
You see, I think it's right here. Yeah, and getting the striker to go right while it's sitting inside of a holster in a SIG marked holster that was ordered from SIG's website. Right, that is certified like for that specific gun after they went and blamed all of the holsters for all of the issues that they were having. To do that live, I thought was also a really nice touch.
Yeah. The one thing that you don't see about that is the like 5 times I tried getting in the holster and it would keep clicking off.
Right.
So it would drop it before I could get in the damn holster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those where, yeah, it's insanely touchy. It's scary.
And that is with this specific slide FCU frame combo.
Yes.
So can we talk, let's talk just to catch everybody up in broad strokes. What exactly parts combination got it to do this?
You know what? Let me pull a little bit of data quick. But what's terrifying is the parts combo that did it is the closest together in manufacture of any of them. So we had a
time frame.
Yes. So we had guns from 14, 16, 17, and 2 of them produced in 2022. I believe one was in April and the other one was in June.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10 millimeter was produced in, let me check here quick. Yes, June 20th, 2022, it was produced. The other, so that is the fire control group of 10 millimeter. We ended up using the slide for that combination there was produced March 22nd of 2022. And those are the ones that we're just releasing and dropping. And as you can notice, we do actually document every single one when it was manufactured, because I think when it was actually manufactured means a hell of a lot to track, okay, what changes were made when, and maybe the quality control.
I thoroughly appreciated that.
I think that's very important, and it is kind of ridiculous. So this actually looks a lot like the SIG P320 that I have on the table right here, because I have a pre-upgrade model with the original thick trigger that you guys see here. Now, this is kind of what I wanted to get into, is that SIG has publicly made there's a pre-upgrade and a post-upgrade P320, but unfortunately, that's not the full story. there's a plethora of some small, some a little bit bigger parts changes between the models from its inception to now that are not noted. And so it's very difficult to tell, well, if I buy this specific handgun, what specific parts are actually in here. And some of the design changes are quite big.
Yeah, the entire striker changeover is absolutely crazy because of how that functions. The lockback, and as you can see here, we've got
Yeah.
the full MIM'd striker assembly from the first gen.
Right. This is the originally MIM'd piece that later got switched over to a stamped piece. Correct?
Oh, and our
Yes.
2017 gun, the safety transfer bar, completely different than all the others.
Yeah.
That one looks like a stamped one.
No two guns had all the same parts. Like there's constant minor changes to everything.
The 222s, the 10 millimeter and the 9 millimeter from 2022 were very close, other than the safety transfer bar, but otherwise, all of the 9 millimeters, none of them were identical, and that scares me.
Well, right. So let's talk about it in terms of differences. Some of them have actual geometry changes, right, where they're slightly different. The way they interact with the pieces are slightly different, and then some of them are actually manufacturing differences as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like some of the changes, like they look like they're just manufacturing updates. They realize that they could leave a little bit of material out somewhere, or they got a different batch of parts or changed suppliers or something. And there's like, it's not a huge functional difference, but then there's some of these things that there's a noticeable geometry and function change from part to part, but there's no real announcement from SIG about it.
Well, that's the problem too, and that's why it's funny for me to hear billion-dollar corporation SIG with approximately $5 billion in well, at least $5 billion in current contracts with the U.S. military. Two dudes in a garage diagnose an issue in about 2 hours with the P320, while their public statement is actually, it's all just an anti-2A psyop from anti-gun people, right? And they basically called everybody that had ever either seen one go off or had been shot by one liars and whatnot, which, as somebody pointed it out earlier in the chat, you can fight the internet, but you can't really win against the internet. Just not a smart move to make.
I mean, I find it fascinating how many people are in the comments on that video going, "Oh, you specifically designed this to fail." I'm like, yeah, the company said it's impossible for this to happen.
Well, and that's the thing. So you don't have to. Well, okay. First off, it shouldn't be our job to fix again this multi-billion-dollar corporation's problem with their handgun. And keep in mind, there are 3.5 million of these floating around. So you combine the fact that this design, by its design, is supposed to be swapped out with different things, slides, frames, FCUs, and whatnot. And then you just mix and match with different parts, different manufacturing changes, different material changes over the last decade or so. And yeah, some combination of parts eventually work their way into a situation where things just go wonky. Now, when you talk about tolerance stacking, it gets even worse because you have all these little changes that maybe the change in 2022 or 2017 doesn't play well with the 2014 or 2016 model, if you can even, tell exactly what changed between those years. So buying a used P320 at this point, or even a new P320, is a little disconcerting, which is, again, one of my source things was from SIG that they went from a batch testing methodology to a individual gun testing methodology, or a QC check before each gun ships out, so that they know internally that there's some sort of problem, and they're trying. I don't know if they just don't know what it is, or if they're just lying about it and they're just doing the final check to hope that one of their guns didn't get the wrong FCU put in it or something like that.
It's got to be something. I just look at it and go, at this point, the entire idea of moving the Sear up and down to try and prevent Glock hand was a terrible idea, because if that's not fully camming back into place, you are very much courting the situation we're dealing with here.
Right. And so what that means is just the way that it works for the takedown is you can take down a P320, a P250, and a P226, I believe, without a trigger pull. By when you lock it to the rear and you do the takedown safety, it cams the Sear into the downward position. Right. And so
Yeah.
if that doesn't come back up, or if there are parts that don't play well together, and you combine that with a striker safety issue, which again, it's a tiny little piece with a tiny little spring that is supposed to protect you from that striker. If any combination of that happens, well, it can kind of just go off. Unfortunately, yours is pretty consistent, but some of them seem to be more random, right?
Yeah, and again, it's probably based on how much sear to striker contact there is.
Mhm.
And if you
Mhm.
notice in the 2022 ones, you can still see a bit of the sear above the back plate of the frame. And that's in both the 10 millimeter and the 9 millimeter variant, which those are post upgrades. So that's one of the things we're going to have to look into for a future one is, okay, do all of the post upgrade ones have the same issue where the sear is not dropping as far as it used to?
Right.
And if that's the case, that would explain why it seems to be more common to hear about these holster issues after the upgrade.
Well, so I think if I remember correctly, the Genghis Khan was pre-upgrade in a holster. Am I right on that, Richard? Or was his pre or post upgrade in a holster?
So his was supposedly a pre-upgrade, but it was holstered.
Correct. Well, that's pre-upgrade. But then the recent one at AHT, that was a
supposed to be
post-upgrade,
post-upgrade, yes.
also in a holster.
Correct.
Right. So, and there could be many different issues going on at the same time. The different FCU in a different frame might have something to do with it, with some of them, but maybe not all of them, because there could be other compounding issues going on at the exact same time.
I think the issue comes down to selling a pistol and advertising it, marketing the modularity of it, but then not having fail safes, like I had mentioned before, putting a keyway in the fire control unit that matches up with the frame on the slot. So things like this can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Make it physically impossible for people to screw up, right? Everybody always says, "I'll make it idiot proof." Well, then they'll just make a bitter idiot. Well, at that point in time, you use that idiot to make it even better. And so far, SIG has done none of that. Just
Before we go on, Jonathan Picone for $2 says, LFD, you and your choice of shirts, one word, fresh. Very much. That was the top comment when we looked at your video the other day. Was everybody was just saying when your shirts change, it's like this guy's taste in shirts is the best or something like that.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I do enjoy retro rifle shirts. They're like absolutely off the hook.
Well, we loved them.
The nice shirts. All right, so you guys had guns from 4 different years, and all of them were kind of their own little bit of special.
Yep. They would go together and work, but that just everything's a little bit different, but close enough. So it's kind of once we can figure out the combos of parts, we might be able to figure out what special version put together is the bad one.
Right, is the one that's actually going to get, because you had it also at the range, you would have it do doubles.
Yeah, that it was only the one time, but still, in this configuration, it should have never been able to fire, yet it's going off every other round.
Right, correct. It should, according to SIG, it should not be able to be fired at all. Right.
Yeah, based on the design, you should never have sear contact in that configuration, but it did.
Right.
Yeah, that tolerance stack where the sear's in the takedown position, but still catching the striker is not a good thing.
Yeah, it's one of those just like it shouldn't be, but it is. And
yeah, as long as your other safeties are working, you're okay. But you can see where on newer guns, they changed to a vertical traveling plunger.
Mhm.
So they went away from this pivoting striker block at the back.
Well, right. So for people who are looking, this is the striker safety. This is the striker safety spring. And well, like there are pictures floating around of both of these items broken and or missing inside of the striker assembly of P320s, which if you combine that with a little bit of Sear engagement issues, it's not a good thing. Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. And I think I saw an Army report saying that they did a survey of 115 guns and 3 of them had that part either broken or missing. It's like, uh,
Yeah.
Well, right, and P3 or not, sorry, I was thinking of three P320s in a trench coat. That's the mouthful. But Protraband has also done some really good videos showing the different issues with the military side of things as well as the civilian side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, and one of the things is that you can inspect for all these problems if
Mhm.
you knew to do the inspections.
which honestly is what SIG should have done in the first place. Instead of going, hey, about this, we're going to just say it's an anti-gun campaign. It's like, guys, say, hey, we're hearing a lot of this stuff. It's out of context. The design is safe, but you know what? I understand why you might not trust it. Here's how you can check your gun and make sure it's freaking safe.
Yes, but if they did that, they would have to admit that there was a problem, right? And here's
Not
the thing,
really. Not really. If you're saying, hey, I understand you're concerned. Here's how you can check that your safeties on your gun are working. That's not admitting fault. That's saying, here you can check your gun to gain confidence.
I agree with you, but that sounds like there could be a potential issue with those safeties. If they're telling you to, it's like if a car manufacturer was like, listen, here's how you check to see if your brakes are going to work. I would be like, what do you mean check to see if my brakes are going to work? Of course they're going to work, right? Like, why are you?
On your car, you have your standard periodic inspections of all your safety systems. It's
right, but not just from the factory. If they were like, oh, well, if you're not feeling confident, you can check. I mean, I get why, but SIG has taken the public approach currently that it's not their fault. It is not their fault. The gun has never gone off. It's not possible for it to go off. That's like their words verbatim. This is not their fault in any way, shape, or form.
SIG, never settle.
Right. And I mean, the test to do is pretty simple, right? Because you guys showed at the end of the video here. Let me pull it up. And this is the little striker safety that if it gets stuck in the upward position or in this orientation, the downward position, you can tell that there's an issue with the spring that's attached to it, or it gets stuck in some way, shape, or form. And then you can also, there's a Sear test you can do as well, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, it's basically checking that your actual Sear is returning to engagement on reassembly. Because, yeah, though, if you look at the actual Sear engagement in the pictures there, it's like, okay, so is the dirty part where it's engaging or the clean part where it's engaging?
Right.
Because if it's the dirty part where it's engaging, cool. If it's only the clean part, oh God.
Right, that tiny little section off to the right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where if we bring it back to tolerance stacking, and the one thing that really hasn't been talked about all that much is just normal wear and tear.
Yep.
Especially for guys who shoot these a lot. Like, for instance, the two major ones that have happened publicly is Genghis Khan, who is a competition shooter who shoots a lot. And then at a training class where it was like a 2-day 1,200 round class, if I'm not mistaken. So where they're putting a lot of rounds through it, right? So the wear and tear on some of these other firearms, if they have a minor issue over enough time, that wear and tear just gets worse and worse and eventually leads to, a catastrophic failure, especially if we're tolerant stacking these parts to have almost no contact to begin with.
Yeah, Heinrich, what do you got? Probably 5 to 10,000 rounds through your red dotted one?
not that much. I'd say probably around 2.
You're definitely higher than 2 with all the practice.
Oh, yeah, because with all the competition, and I'm trying. It's like I've only shot 2 cases, but then how many single boxes have I?
Yeah, because
we shot through it. So yeah.
because there was the Mag 40,
Yeah, Mag 40 and
Kathy Jackson, or was that before?
Trying to remember. I think I ran the Kathy Jackson class with my 250.
Okay.
I've run a lot of local classes with it. I've run a lot of competition with it. So yeah, it's probably north of 3K. And I haven't noticed anywhere on parts. So
Do you have a actual, what might be a really interesting test is to see the difference in Sear contacts between a brand new gun and a gun at like say 3,000 to 5,000 rounds, something like that. That might be interesting to see the differences. And, you know, that would go for the same with all the striker safety features as well, kind of see how things are wearing in. But that's the thing. There are 3.5 million of these things out in the wild, according to SIG.
yeah.
So the chances, even if it's 0.01%,
one
You
in
know,
a
that in the
million, that's
world?
still 3.5.
Well, hold on. Is that in the world or is that in the just in the U.S.? Because we know that they're now being sold to Colombia,
well,
to
right.
was it Panama? All these different countries around the world are buying them now. I think the 3.5 mil number was just here.
That's the number that SIG gave to Mac in that interview that they posted a couple weeks ago, 3.5 million. So whether that is just in the US or, well, let's just work with the 3.5 million because that's what we have. Again, if it's 0.1%, 0.01%, 0.001%, we're still talking about thousands of potential firearms that could go off on their own, right?
And that's probably just fire control units. That's not counting when you go out and buy like Sear parts or whatnot to replace, or slides, because they do a lot of slide only sales too.
Well,
Yeah.
and not just SIG, but everybody
Yeah.
makes slides. You know, most of the 320s that I've shot have been aftermarket parts all the way. And I'm like, oh, wow, this shoots great, you know, but I don't really trust the base company all that much. You know, maybe an aftermarket company actually is a better way to go. But
Yeah, what's crazy is everything we tested here, the only real modification we had was the 2016 gun, and that was milled for a red dot.
mhm.
And Heinrich replaced the slide stop safety because I think his new frame.
I put a compact carry frame on it for competition so that I
Mhm.
could use full-size mags. And because that was a 2020 made grip, they had done some changes to the fence around the slide stop lever. So I got that I had to put a new slide stop lever on it.
But
Just
yeah,
because the frame was slightly different.
The grip, they put a big bunch of fencing around the slide stop lever to keep you from accidentally engaging or disengaging it,
Mhm.
which the early guns had a much bigger, more pronounced button on, or external button on the slide stop lever, so it was easy to hit with your thumb to put it on or take it off. So on the newer grips with that fence, you have to get a slide stop lever that has a smaller external paddle. But like the external
Mhm.
features of the slide stop lever are visually changed, but not really functionally changed.
Right. Functionally the same, just slightly different.
Yeah.
Right. Or sorry, functionally the same, just visually slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing is the on that slide stop lever from 2014 to 2016, they added that little cutout on the slide stop lever and the pin on the takedown safety bar, so that the safety
Mhm.
bar will lock rearward when you disassemble the gun,
Correct.
where the original one from 2014 won't.
Okay, so I think mine is the 2016 up model then, because mine does have that trigger bar safety.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly when that change happened because I don't have late in 14 or anything in 15.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you can't lock that trigger or that safety transfer bar back, the Sear can't be locked in that lowered position. It always pops up to the raised position when you have the takedown lever flipped to the normal operating position.
Hmm.
So that seems to be part of what's going on.
Right, and that's with at least the first year and a half of production.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like that. All of the times that we had problems, it was when we managed to get that transfer bar or that safety bar stuck backwards on the takedown lever or on the slide stop lever without popping that slide stop lever up
Mhm.
and to lock the slide open. And that was when we got the Sear to lower and stay lowered, even when the gun was reassembled and looking like it was working properly, and then only partially grabbing the Sear or striker.
Correct. And I mean, that's another problem too that we didn't really talk about is just it looks normal from the outside. And unless you're intimately aware of how all of the safeties are supposed to work, if you handed that gun to somebody, they would be like, "Oh, cool, I'll go shoot this."
Yeah,
and it
They'd have
function
no idea.
checks fine, apart from the Sear engagement is now, I'm guessing because of our testing, it's wearing down to be far
Right.
more likely to drop.
yeah, it's a
But
few thou something. Who knows? There's no spec on it. You can't see inside to look at it.
Mhm.
eh,
Like
but
until last weekend, I had no idea that could happen.
yeah, and again, it function checks fine. And that's the terrifying aspect about it is you'll have no damn clue and you could be in that dangerous situation. That's
Yeah,
why I say if you've got a SIG 320 that's kind of intermittently firing, I'd check that thing real quick.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this has done a lot of damage to their reputation for sure, and the way that they've handled it. There's no doubt about it. And
Well,
I
Oh,
mean,
I
yeah.
think their damage. I think the damage was probably already done with the cross.
well, that happened too, but the P320 is a much more prolific gun than the Cross. Because I mean, the Cross sales numbers are probably a few 100,000 versus.
Not to mention they're not super accurate.
Well, yeah, there's other problems with the Cross other than just the fact that the original models used to go off on their own as well. Basically, when you unlock the bolt, which is wild.
The worst time possible.
Yep.
Well, and that's actually a totally different discussion, but that's terrifying because there's no other way to get the round out of the chamber.
Right.
Other than to open up the bolt, and that's when it goes off. So,
What do you do if you're at a competition and that happens?
You
Well,
get kicked out.
You take the
probably,
BDU.
yeah. You probably have to go to like if they have a live bay, and then an RO will probably take it off for you. That's probably how it would do it. But
I wonder, could you?
or yeah, if you ND in the air because you lock open your bolt or something like that, then yeah, you're gone.
Yeah.
So, not a great time. Now, you guys have been following the P320, sorry, 3 P320s in a trench coat, and he has proposed a fix to the actual Sear movement issue. And you guys were telling me before the stream how he had come across a separate issue with the actual Sear itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, he had seen our video and decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to test it. And he did a little short actually looking at it.
Well, let me see if I can find that.
Yeah, it would be the most recent one.
Yeah, I think it must be this one. Let me.
Thought this was a red herring. Turns out this is a place where we actually can start talking about stacking tolerance.
Yeah, so sympathetic safety lever movement in a 9mm P320 with a 45/10mm takedown safety, which was, again, that did come from my source.
All right, this is a 45/10mm takedown safety lever inserted into or misconfigured into what is otherwise a 9mm FCU, 9mm configured pistol, grip frame, everything. This is to experiment with what LFD Research has finally actually proven can cause some striker slippage. And basically, this takedown safety lever will not move forward unless I pop this slide catch lever.
Just a complete aside, but I like how they've changed shorts to 3 minutes long. So now shorts are longs again. So we just have 3-minute videos on shorts now.
It can, however, still move forward just enough because it is different. This central stud is different on this new takedown safety lever than it is on my old takedown safety lever from 5 years ago. This takedown safety lever is allowed to move forward just enough that the sear rises back up into the path of the striker. Now, on LFD Research's FCU, this sear striker contact was so light that he could shake it off. And
I also do want to point out that SIG has another change to their FCU, is that the newer models have a secondary sear catch at the back. This second surface here is a failsafe. I don't know why they would have put that in there, but the original ones don't. So it kind of leads me to think that maybe they knew that this was a possible issue and they were like, well, let's just add in a secondary catch to possibly solve this if it ever did happen.
Yeah, it does kind of look that was the voluntary upgrade-ish. I'm going to have to pull it apart and look. But I will say that catch is very much there on a 2019 version. And
yeah, for instance, I have my P320 unassembled in front of me right now, and I don't have that secondary catch surface. So it's not just the trigger that they changed out, but for some reason they added a secondary catch surface in there, which is always just if you're making integral parts changes and you're not being public about it, it's immediately a little bit shady.
Yeah.
And it would release the striker.
Sorry, Trench Grenade says, Focus Strip, we need to do an in-person collab. Maybe we make it a competition for the boys to bet on. That would be fun. That would be fun to do. We'll have to do that sometime.
Charity competition for Memorial Day?
Well, I'm going to be gone all weekend, so I won't be able to do anything that's in. But, I mean, later on in the year, maybe we'll do something like that. That sounds like fun. Make a meetup / competition with everybody and make bets on it. That'd be fun.
Will not do that. I have shaken it, I have twisted it, I have hit it. It will not release the striker, even in this misconfiguration that has been proven on other pistols to release the striker. But one of the key points that they made was to check your striker safety lock to make sure that it's functional, because that is the last line of defense if your sear drops off. Remember what all of my research has been focused on. What can cause sympathetic activation of the safety lever and therefore deactivation of the striker safety lock when you don't want it to be deactivated? Well, sear movement can do that in certain cases. I also demonstrated some mitigating factors, right? Well, my FCU normally demonstrates one of those mitigating factors, except in this misconfiguration, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's really terrible. So I don't know if I can show this on camera, but yeah. So as you pull the trigger of a P320, the safety bar inside the FCU lifts up, which then pushes the striker safety up as well and out of the way. So if your sear is doing that, not a great idea. Especially, again, if you're reassembling it this way with that in the upward position and it's putting upward pressure on the striker safety, not great.
Particularly combined with his friend SIG that has the striker safety bar catching in the slide. So when it's his friends from the factory configuration, that gets sticky. So it gets pushed up, it stays pushed up.
Ooh.
And now and again, this is why it's interesting to see all the different parts combinations, because he can't get the striker to go, right? Whereas yours will go with almost no input whatsoever. It wants to go. So there's a difference between frames, slides, FCUs.
Actually, I hadn't noticed it, but you can actually catch at the end of our video the sympathetic movement when I'm trying to actually push the striker down. You start seeing that safety lever come up.
Is it in this section of the video?
Yes, right there near the end. Let's see.
See if it does it. Because if it does start to
that
come up-
is the. It's going to be right after it. It's going to be the one with the brown frame.
let me move that.
So. It might be a little bit before. I must have done it out of order with the new. Yeah,
Okay,
there
the
you go.
brown. Yep. There we go.
So
let's see. Oh yeah, you're right.
but I'm going to push down with it using a wooden stick just to see how low it goes, and we can actually see a little bit of sympathetic movement when I'm pushing down the striker. So, oh yeah, right there.
So let's watch this. So pushing down on the striker, and yeah, the safety lever starts to raise. Which again, it's all weird and convoluted because if you've never seen the inside of a P320 like I hadn't before, like a couple weeks ago, it looks like nonsense on the inside. There are so many little parts that move in opposite directions to get the thing to go, and it's more complicated. And I believe there are more small parts than most other modern firearms out there, modern striker fired firearms out there. And so you got a lot of these little pieces moving together, changing manufacturing processes, tolerances, materials, and funky things like sympathetic movements start happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just one of those where there is, again, I'm not sure if it's a quality control thing, because think of how many guns were being required and requested in the 2020 through 2022 timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
They may have just loosened up their quality control standards like happened with just about everything else in high demand, because anything made during that time, my semi truck made during that time, so many damn issues that make no fracking sense, like steel coolant lines forming holes in the center because they must have used bad quality steel. And
yeah,
again,
I think that's a legitimate point, because it's a combination of quality control like across the board, especially in the firearms industry, say the trucking industry as well, but in the firearms industry goes down, combined with the fact that they had all of these contracts to fulfill. So one of the ways to speed up the process is, instead of, building out bigger facilities, hiring more people, speeding them up, is just to push them out the door faster, right? So that's a simple way to make things done faster. And especially if it's like COVID protocols, and so you have less people in the building, less people performing QC, that could be a confounding factor as well.
I mean, think about it. Asus literally shipped out motherboards with MOSFETs on there backwards that would cause it to blow up.
Right. Well, that's a whole another story if you want to get into the computer industry, which was, like the 12-volt high power cables melting computers and stuff like that.
Oh, that thing's still a disaster.
Yeah. What a great standard that was. Great idea.
It still is. I mean, 22 amps through a little wire that's only supposed to take about 9.
Well, and the idea that it's like, oh, your $2,000 graphics card just murked your $5,000 PC and caused a house fire. It's like, nice, thank you. And like with a P320, it's like a $300 piece of plastic just put a hole in my leg. Fantastic, excellent.
I do want to step in and say that COVID stuff probably didn't help matters much, but these issues were prevalent before that happened, right? Gungus has happened in, I think, 2019. There was another report of one that happened, I want to say, in 2014 or 2015 that I had seen. A guy had reached out and said that he and one of his friends were out training, and his friend ended up taking a round from a holstered 320, and we're still trying to get a hold of his contact to see if we can get him on. But yeah, there's several reports of this going back well before COVID issues. So, but I guarantee that probably compounded the issues.
I think it probably got worse because it's multiple things. It's not only the QC isn't the only thing. I think it's a fundamental design problem, which is why they've changed and iterated and made different, parts changes along the way, is because I think that they know there's some internal problems that they've had. I think they just know that.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those when you realize how much tolerance is stacking because you are literally moving the sear. every single cam surface on that, if it gets out of spec, you're screwing with your Sear surface.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then sympathetic movement in your striker
Yeah.
safety, your safety bar is not great to see. That is terrifying. But before we move on, we do have a lot of questions from the audience, super chats from the audience, specifically on this topic. Do you guys mind sticking around till we get through some of these?
Sure.
Perfect. We have the official Sig Sauer in the chat for $4.99. Says, "Sup, beaches. Keep on buying, suckas." Thank you very much, Sig Sauer. Greatly appreciated. Unlike your P320s. Even though, yeah, I don't have any problem shooting with my P320, but I just don't love the way that it was designed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Sig Sauer for $4.99 says, "Hey, LFD, Trench says he has something that'll fit good in your hand also." Are you guys familiar with Trench Grenade?
Not
No.
really.
Okay. Yeah, he's has a YouTube channel. And he's a prime target of my chat. And he hangs out in here and people are just merciless. So Zephon for $2 says, "Tell Heinrich to say actually."
I don't have any glasses to push up, but actually,
Yeah, there you go. I
You
think
mean,
that's what I was looking
actually, you carried that thing for appendix for close to a decade?
yeah.
for. Yeah. Oh, so okay, here's
Luckily,
update.
I apparently had a good one.
Yeah. So after this P320 debacle and you guys have done your own testing, does that change your opinion and what you actually carry right now?
I have been carrying a 365 since it's so much thinner than a 320. The 320s that I've got, I've dug through the guts of so much that I'm pretty confident that they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they're mostly competition guns that I'm wearing at 4 o'clock. Can't get away from me just because that's my competition rig.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a little bit more reassuring that it's not pointed at me when it's holstered.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I think they're going to ask it in the question, but yeah, go ahead, Matt.
365 here as well. Though I will say the last training class we did, I was very definitely kind of making sure my leg was out of the way when I reholstered the thing.
Oh, yeah. With a 320?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's impossible not to be just way more cognizant of it now. You know, because I don't even have a holster for my 320. I don't even, there's no point in me holstering it, so I haven't bought one for it. Huge ass for $199 says, "Sig, no takebacks." Yeah, I mean, the courts have ordered you to give back some pretty hefty sums of money, so I wouldn't say that exactly. Sig Sauer for $4.99 says, "Sig, we never let safety get in the way of excitement." Well, yeah, it is an exciting experience, that's for sure. Thank you, Sig. I appreciate it. Sig Sauer for $4.99 says, "The Sig P320, because sometimes you pull the trigger and sometimes it pulls itself." Yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't need the trigger to go. It's all internal. But yeah, thank you very much for the $4.99, Sig. Appreciate it. Huge ass for $9.99 says, "I tried to get my brother to divest of his P320s and he didn't believe the rumors and videos. He is now fruit since no LGS wants to buy them. My brother is a certified Sega now." So yeah, the one thing that I will say is, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but my 3 local gun stores are filled with used P320s.
I was hoping for that. I checked local Shields, local gun store in my city, my town, and local one in my town had no 320s at all. Ended up
Really?
having to drive 100 miles down to Omaha to get one. And Cabela's had a couple there, and they're like, "Yeah, no, we don't even take them on trade. We got too damn many." And it was just
Yeah.
trying to hunt through, because I'm trying to find, okay, let's see the production dates on these. I'm trying to build a list to see, okay, what changes were made when?
Mm-hmm.
Because to figure out what's going on here, we kind of need an idea on that.
Well, and that's the expensive part too, and difficult, is to find all of the individual different years and inter-year changes that might have happened along the way. So, I mean, you're looking at buying 10 plus 320s to figure out all of the different changes.
But again, if you actually have a SIG, go grab the case. It literally says when it was manufactured on the box.
Actually, I have my box in the closet. I should go check that. Mr. Johnny Moo for $10 says, John Daly, thank you for your contribution. I'm so happy I can make fun of 320 owners more efficiently now. Richard, I made another photo for you if someone doesn't beat my $10 bid. Well, Mr. Johnny Moo is the high bid, so he does get to pick your profile picture for the next stream, Richard. So as long as it's a PG.
Unless somebody else bumps him out.
Yeah, like right on there. This one
It'll
is
be-
a December 19 production.
Oh, perfect.
So they all have it in a little bit different place. Even all the 365s have that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I can go grab my box in a second, check what date it is. 6 Hour, back again for another $4.99, says quality control. Wait, what? That's the box we forgot to check. Somebody forgot to check it, man. Although, again, the rumor is that they're now checking every single gun that goes out because they're probably aware of some problem that they need to be checking for.
Yep.
6 Hour for $4.99 says, hey, LFD, don't look at us. Look over here instead with a bikini emoji. I think they're trying to distract you. Huge Ass for $4.99 says, Sig, it's modular. LFD uses that proven design flaw. Sig, not like that. I mean, there's a little bit of me that likes the idea of having a very modular pistol that I can just change out the frame and the slide and do whatever else I want with it. And there are other pistols now that do that. The Ruger RXM is a chassis gun. The Zev Glocks are a chassis gun. The Beretta ARX, is that the new one? It's also a chassis gun, I want to say. So that feature set I like, but if it's going to lead to issues like this, that can be exacerbated just by putting in an FCU that looks identical into the wrong frame, sounds like a recipe for disaster. And as Richard already pointed out earlier, if they just made a keyway or some geometry difference that made it to where you could not put a 10 millimeter FCU into a 9 millimeter frame, then it would have worked around possibly some of these issues.
Yeah. At least the one we demonstrated would not have occurred. But I mean, there have been chassis guns around that nobody considers a chassis gun. The Ruger American, that's a chassis gun. The LCPs and LC9s, those are all chassis guns.
Ruger All-American 2000? Richard, is that the one that that Matt from Fudbusters was going on about? The All-American 2000? Is that the one?
Yeah. Indeed it was.
I didn't know that was a chassis gun. Maybe that's the reason why he likes it. David Boldo Podcast for $10 says, I would rather have Luhan burp in my mouth after she spends the night at Garantham's than buy a cig. That's disgusting. But thank you, David Boldo Podcast, which I did check is actually a real podcast who does streams. So thank you very much for the $10, sir. That was quite explicit. Mr. Johnny Moo for $2 says, unexpected contact with my Sear makes me ND2. Sear spelled Seer. Oh, no. Chuck for $2 says, Trench be gooning tonight. No, he's hanging out. Let's see. 6 Hour for $4.99 says, give John Daly a P320 and a Diet Coke, and you've got a wild card with recoil on both ends. Do you get that comment a lot, the John Daly comments?
No.
No? Okay.
No. A lot of it, honestly, after the first day, it's been a lot of SIG people just going, no, you purposely designed this gun to fail. This doesn't matter. This doesn't apply. This, it's like, you realize I was trying to be fair and honest, saying, hey, this is a weird config. This should never work. This shouldn't be working in this way, but it is working in this way. There's a problem with how these can be reconfigured. And I'm guessing the reason SIG maybe didn't find this exact flaw is they never thought anyone would be deranged enough to do this, which they just haven't seen enough users if that's the case.
I was going to say, it seems pretty obvious that at some point, somebody would use the modularity of their system to accidentally combine different parts together. Like, that seems obvious. And again, we're talking about millions of firearms. And
Yeah.
you guys are a prime example of this. You guys owned 4 or 5 different P320s already in different calibers, and at any point could have accidentally swapped parts into another one and not realized it. And you guys
Yeah.
know your way around P320s, but that's not to talk about people who have no idea what they're doing could also just as easily do something incorrect as well.
And like I showed on the video, if you are, let's say you're going, all right, today's my gun cleaning day. I'm going to clean all my guns. And you take down all your 320s and you accidentally mix fire control groups. You put them back together, you function check them. Who shoves a magazine in their gun in the function check? No one.
No.
So
of course, why would you?
You're never going to know you screwed up the assembly, and you're never going to know that it doesn't work because you got the wrong caliber in there. Because the 45 will be dead, but how many people are going to actually try and shoot 45 anymore if they have a 9 and a 45? Yeah, if you're going to shoot some
Mhm.
pressed, maybe, but then you also have 165 grain pills for 9 mil, and it's cheaper and not as much recoil, so why not go for the 9?
Well, and there's also the idea that was kind of alluded to is that at times parts may be mixed up from the factory.
Yeah, and we can't speak to that, and people ask
Correct.
us,
That's just
"Do you have proof this happened?" It's like, how are you going to certifiably prove that happened unless you have a gun that's coming new in the box, wrapped in a bag? And
Well,
you're
so
not going to find out till you open it, and then people will say, "Well, you substituted a part."
well, and we can never say proved unless we literally had a unopened box still in the wrapper and we could check for that.
Exactly.
But if we ask the question logically, is it a logical possibility that out of 3.5 million P320s shipped around the world, let's say, that one of them was shipped with incorrect parts? Is that a logical possibility? I think the honest person would say yes. That is a logical possibility that that has happened.
Honestly, there's a hell of a lot of a possibility that the 10 millimeter part slash 45 might be just milled down from the 9 millimeter safety block. They're that damn close.
Right, like they're all 9 millimeter, and then some of them are converted into 10 millimeter.
Right.
10.5.
And really, unless you're going to do an actual metallurgical analysis of it, how the hell can you tell whether or not it was machined after the fact in that one spot? Which would explain why pretty much all the markings were almost identical on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're at some point in time they went to a color difference on some of them. Some of them are black, some of them are like base machine color.
I'm
But
not
I
sure
don't know if
that's
entirely
significant.
the truth. Because I have a 10 millimeter bar. I bought a 10 millimeter takedown safety bar that I have sitting behind me in a box somewhere that I'm actually going to put into this FCU. That one is black, and the one currently in my FCU is just bare metal.
Yeah, and yet one of the M18s I just picked up today, that bar is black.
Well, right, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if they changed all takedown safeties, because again, my gun is probably 7-8 years old at this point, and then the new takedown safety bar might just be they changed again the part for some reason. Now, it would make sense intuitively if you were going to have 2 different calibers that you would make one a different color than the other so that you could tell just by looking at it what part it's supposed to be for. And I thought that might have been the case, but apparently they just changed all of the takedown safeties to black, which is there goes that theory that I was actually going to give SIG some props for.
Yeah, I need to see if I can find the picture real quick. But the 2017 pistol, the entire castings are completely different than every other model in the line we have.
Then even the ones before and after.
Yes. The ones after, actually, the 2022 models have an eye in it, which would make me assume probably India manufacturer. But I need to get a quality picture of that 2017 one because it is quite different.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to send that either to my email or put it in the private chat, I should be able to get that from you.
Yeah.
Because that's another whole thing is we didn't really even talk about it, but where are exactly these parts being manufactured at? Because there probably is differences between the American manufactured parts and the tolerances of India manufactured parts, and then combining the two of those together is probably another recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's
Sig Sour for $4.99 says X misses Grand Thumb to Sig. I'd like 50 P320s drop shipped to my ex. Yeah, apparently, I don't know if you guys know this, but Garantham does actually have one of the P320s that was alleged to have gone off on its own in for testing. So apparently that is one of the firearms that he currently has in his possession. What he's going to end up doing with it, I don't know, but I hope there's some new information that comes from that as well.
Honestly, I welcome any and all information coming in on these because I'd like to better know what's actually happening.
100%. Huge ass for 199. Sig Sauer, the Scientologists of the gun industry. It's an oddly apt comparison. They need to do some more. What is the thing that they do? I almost said a different word, where they electrocute their hands to check their resonance or something like that, and they have to get it down to a certain range, and that's where they're more zen or something like that for Scientology. I just know the memes about it. I don't actually know anything about it.
Yeah, I remember the South Park episode, and that's about it.
I will be sure to ask Tom Cruise when I talk to him this weekend.
Well, tell him that they should have shot their newest movie better. The P320, God's way of telling you, appendix carry was a bad idea from the start. Ouch. Thank you, Sig, for $4.99. No, appendix carry is great, just not when combined with the P320. You guys saw that they recently, in the last like 6 months or so, updated their manuals to basically stop recommending carrying around in the chamber.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they've done some other interesting things within the past 6 months too.
Blame everybody but themselves, or do you have something more specific?
Yeah, if we want to transfer onto the,
we can do
we
that.
still have.
Well, we got you guys for a minute. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but let me pull this up on screen. So this is a bill to limit legal liability for firearms manufacturers in New Hampshire passes the Senate. So the state Senate approved an amended version of House Bill 381, which we also have pulled up, which would shelter manufacturers from certain liability claims regarding optional features on firearms. Senators said the bill is primarily intended to address the ongoing litigation involving Sig Sauer. Now, the state of New Hampshire and the senators there that are sponsored by Sig Sauer are attempting to install legislation to limit their legal liability, which is quite funny considering that they've lost somewhere between 3 and 6 cases, not including the ones that were settled out of court privately, but they've lost several high profile cases of late.
Well, you can even see the ad right there at the top. 10 people now suing New Hampshire-based Sig Sauer over claims the gun can fire without trigger pull.
No, I know that is a good sublink to put into this article. So thank you to Marissa for doing that. I appreciate it. So their home is in New Hampshire. They want to stay in New Hampshire, and they're asking us for help to fight against false, defective claims that would take jobs away from research and development. Now that's a word salad right there. To help fight against false, defective claims, again, other than the claims that you lost in court, that would take jobs away from research and development. Like, listen, guys, if we lose more cases, we're going to have to fire people. So we need you guys to make it to where these people can't sue us anymore. And this is Senator Bill Gannon. And Sig Sauer is a wonderful corporate citizen and New Hampshire employer. They are worthy of all the accolades that my colleague from District 23 has said. But this is no way to address a product's liability issue, said Senator Tara Reardon D. Concord. So she's very nice there and saying that they're a wonderful corporate citizen, but this is no way to address a product's liability issue. 100% agree. And this is from a Democrat as well. So I don't necessarily agree with her flowery language, but the main point is that they shouldn't use legislation to protect a corporate entity from issues with their products. Although I did, on a totally unrelated note, I did see that I think just a couple hours ago, Boeing settled with the U.S. government on claims of the 737 crashes that they had. So apparently they took some dollar amount fine from the U.S. government as well out of that. So if you pay us enough money, I guess we don't care how bad your product is or how many people it injures. So you had a specific line that you wanted to look at in there, didn't you, Richard?
Yes, I did. It was if you look here, read the top part of it. They basically state that they want protection from firearms that can't be proven in a court of law as defective, meaning the person would have to be able to recreate the issue. But if you scroll down a little bit further below all of the subtext, an act exempting firearms and firearms accessories manufactured for in-state use only from the National Firearms Act. They pitched this bill as an in-state solution to the National Firearms Act, and then, from what I can understand, shoehorned in the protection for SIG.
Right. So this would be similar to what we tried to see in Texas and Montana, where they tried to do basically an in-state suppressor rule where they didn't. Basically, if you were in Montana or you were in Texas, you could manufacture your own suppressors within the state, and then they would be exempt from the NFA. The feds didn't really jive with that, so those are still in court, I think, up till this day. But maybe that one will go away in the next couple of days. Who knows? But yeah, so an act exempting firearms and firearms accessories manufactured for in-state use only from the National Firearms Act, which sounds again like some of these other bills that we've seen. And then 381 FN, an act limiting liability for certain design features of firearms. Sponsored Republican Belker, Republican Cochran, Republican Tom, Republican Sabarin.
So one of those guys is actually that's his district. SIG is located in his district specifically.
Of course.
And the unions are the ones who lobbied for this. The labor unions inside of SIG, the machinist unions, tool and die, things like that. Those are the ones who initially did the lobbying.
Mm-hmm. So let me see. I want to see here. So in any product liability action involving a firearm, the manufacturer of the firearm shall not be liable in tort under any theory of defective product design, failure to warn, negligence, strict product liability, or any other claim based on the absence or presence of any of the following features. That's wild. Shall
Correct.
not be liable under tort any theory of defective product design, failure to warn, even negligence, strict product liability, or any other claim based on the absence or presence of any of the following features. So whether or not they have or don't have these features: a magazine disconnect mechanism, a loaded chamber indicator, authorized user recognition technology, which I think that's something that really only
Smart
applies
gun.
to, smart guns, like something they were trying to say something like that in California, or an external mechanical safety, including but not limited to a hinged, pivoting, or tabbed trigger safety. So I think that last language right there on the tabbed trigger safety, that was actually the reason, one of the stated reasons they lost one of their court case, was because they couldn't prove that the gun had gone off, but they proved that the SIG's inability to add or design choice to not add a tabbed trigger safety was the most likely culprit. And so they held SIG more liable for the discharge than the actual person because of that design short change. So this, if enacted, would actually protect them from that one specific case where they actually did lose, I think it was $11 million or something like that in that case.
And to be clear, there's still an ongoing, I believe it's still ongoing, where a gentleman in, I want to say, Pennsylvania, was found in his basement. He didn't make it, and he left behind a wife and child, and that case is still ongoing. And to my knowledge,
they are suing SIG for wrongful death, and that the allegation is that the gun went off while inside of his appendix carry holster and killed him in his downstairs. And
the important
really
thing
tragic story. They found him with a tourniquet trying to apply it, but he was shot in an area where a tourniquet wouldn't really help. So it's a really dark, sad story.
Rarely will you find somebody in that instance that actually even has a tourniquet close enough to be able to do something like that. So something tells me that he was more knowledgeable and more hands-on than most.
Well, I think he was in his gun room, which was his downstairs.
Downstairs in his basement in his gun area. But what I did find significant about that case is the FFL itself that sold it to him is also named as a defendant.
The FFL is?
Yes, the FFL was also named. The lawyers and family are going after the FFL as well as SIG. I'll send you the link here in a second. Hold on.
Okay. Well, I'm downloading these pictures you sent me of the 2017 one, so we could take a look at these.
Oh, it's actually I did the whole set of all 5 we got that day.
Okay, perfect. So let me pull this one up. So which one is the one that's currently on screen?
That is 2016.
Just getting them all in here. So then we have this one, which is, as you can see, this is the post-upgrade trigger released.
That is the 2017. And you notice how there's not really the stamping, the marking sections on the side from the casting.
Yep. Yeah, there's the indents on a lot of the MIM safety bars and the...
Oh, yeah, so this is way more aggressive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Way more aggressive.
The post 2017 are more like that.
Right. So it is just that 1 year where it looks like there's some...
The 1 year out of the samples we have. And that's kind of one of those. Yeah.
See, that's
that one is
14.
the 2014. Yeah.
And then this is the 2017, and it is completely different.
And honestly, that's one that we need to go and pursue, because what the hell is different with this one?
Right. Well, another theory that was sent out there was essentially that they were having issues keeping up with demand. And so they ended up having to pull parts from different sources at the same time. And certain ones were faster to get done in this way in a shorter period, even if it was slightly more expensive. And so they got it done in a different manufacturing methodology, which is why you have random parts that just look different, is because they got X 100,000 from this place. I was talking to another company with potentially inside information that they haven't, said anything yet, that also did contract manufacturing for SIG on some of these parts. That is not public information. That is not public knowledge, that they were having other companies make parts for them to keep up with demand. And so they have, some of these SIG parts aren't even all SIG parts, which is the funniest thing. And which leads to all sorts of different nightmarish parts combinations. So that is, that is interesting to see. And it's one of those things where SIG just didn't tell anyone that they were making parts changes year to year, month to month, batch to batch, whatever it ended up being. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, if there's anything else you guys would like to add with the specific P320 issue, if not, we were going to continue on with some other topics for tonight, which you guys are welcome to hang out. Or if you guys want to bounce, I very much so appreciate you guys for your time. And their channel is linked in the chat, and I'll also put it in the description of this video as well.
Yeah, I'm going to need to bounce. I hear a crying baby, but yeah, thanks for having us. Honestly, we're not giving up looking into this, because there's a lot of rabbit holes to chase still.
Yeah,
100%. And I thank you very much for your guys' time. Matt, Heinrich, great to have you guys on, and we will be looking at your career with great exuberance as at seeing what you guys can come up with.
Absolutely. Wonderful work, gentlemen. Wonderful work.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
You gentlemen have a wonderful night.
Later.
So,
and I linked their specific video in chat. If you guys want to check out that video specifically, go ahead and check them out. That is LFD Research. And they're actually not too far from me. So there's a possibility of in the future that we go and we look up, or we do something in person at some point in the future. So
content collaboration.
That's right. Collaboration.
Now,
all right.
I found this interesting. An MSN article about the quote unquote defective design that led to a husband's death has now been taken down, but it was just up about 3 days ago. Oh no, MSN. Website? Yep, the article itself. The link I just sent you in the private chat.
Well, I see the article you gave me, but it's not like the actual article. It's just like the MSN article is the one that no longer exists, that they scrubbed since I looked at it on Monday.
And then the other one, the finance. Yep, that's the one. Oh, is it there?
It's there for me.
It was scrubbed for me.
Oh.
The other one, also the finance.yahoo one, lists the gun manufacturer itself as being a plaintiff.
Interesting.
Or defendant, I'm sorry. I am in fact retarded.
All right, well, let's get through the rest of these real fast.
Okay.
And then we will move on to our well, I think we're going to skip that one for now. We'll probably get into this one as we were supposed to talk about this one anyways. All right. So, Loops the Cat for $5 says journalists do not deserve human rights, especially those from Vice, Wired, and similar rags. Well, thank you very much for the contribution, Loops. Disrespect your local journalist or whatever the saying is. Todd and Dogs for $2 says around blacks never relax. Around Sig just you can say renege. That's a real word, isn't it? That's fine. I can say that. Thank you, Todd.
I think.
Right?
I think.
Yeah, no, it's just a word. It actually is rooted in the Latin word negar, which means to deny. Negar. Don't ask me to pronounce that 10 times, but Huge Ass for 199 says 6 million FCUs. That seems like a high number. What's funny is that is actually pretty close to reality. Mitzvot TV from 499 says, sorry to sidetrack, but if you and Trench do the competition thing, see if Ben can be there too. It'd be funny having him as the RSO. I don't know if Ben would ever waste his time with something like that. Ben would be like, yeah, he has real stuff to do. I think he's over in Iraq doing cool stuff right now. So
shooting RPGs and cool shit.
Yes, very much. I don't think he has time for random YouTube shenanigans. Huge Ass for 499 says, would you rather poop in your hands and clap or appendix carry a P320? Simple decision, sir. Simple decision. Mitzvot TV for 499 says, amazing capitalist idea here. Buy all the 320s you can for as cheap as possible and then sell them back to the government during a gun buyback. I mean, that's what you do with 3D printed guns, is you print them all and then you just sell them back to the government.
Well, hold on. He might be onto something here, because if they'll take the fire control unit itself as a firearm, because it comes in its box as a firearm, then you might be able to get lucky and split it down into two things. Take them the pistol itself with the grip and the slide as one firearm, and then take them the actual fire control unit as a separate firearm, and you can double dip on the same pistol. And they're not going to know any better as long as you just pin it together. You could put a block of wood in there.
They probably wouldn't. That would be funny.
They won't.
We're scheming on ways to scam the U.S. government for our tax dollars back.
Isn't it sad? But that's what we have to do. It's either that or they go scrap.
Yep. Jekyll for 199 says, justice for Navy Man. Keep your head up. What happened to Navy Man? Did something happen that I was not aware of? I saw he posted a video the other day, but as far as I know, he's still out there doing good. Thank you very much for the 199, Jekyll. Jekyll for 999 says, why do white people love stovetop stuffing and Sig? I don't love either of those things, so maybe you're hanging around the wrong white people.
I think he's talking about Southerners.
Yeah, well, probably. Yeah, I'm not a Southerner, so maybe. Richard, do you like stovetop stuffing?
One day a year.
Right. Yeah, it's like a Thanksgiving special, and that's it.
Yeah.
Understandable. Yeah, Navy Man says he's fine. He's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Alrighty. So this was actually, let's see. Is there anyone from the Discord that wants to hop on who's still watching? Because I'd be happy to have some guests on here while we talk about some silliness from CAG, including some of their new man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. This is a suppressor that's been in testing for a couple years now, I think since 2023, if I remember correctly. But what you're looking for is not a maze or a 3D scan of a Doom map. This is, in fact, a two-piece suppressor for the U.S. military, which is currently being tested by CAG and some other homies. And here, let me see if I can make this bigger for you guys, because that's the opposite. Okay, that's a little better. Okay.
Dang, we should have done that an hour and a half ago.
Then what an hour and a half ago. Don't worry about it. We're fine. Yeah, so you can see it has looks a little interesting. They're using it for hog hunting. It's on machine guns, and they have some interesting claims. Now, it is of course additively manufactured, meaning 3D printed, because there's no other way to manufacture something like this. If you were to ever try and tell me or ask me why they made it look this way, I have quite literally zero idea why the external geometry of this thing is important. But some computer program somewhere, or somebody high on crack, was like, you know what, guys? I have an idea. And yes, that is exactly what it looks like. That is a clip-on suppressor attachment. You want a suppressor for your suppressor. Well, we got even more suppressor for your suppressor that adds a reflex suppressor underneath your regular suppressor.
Suppressorception.
Pressorception. That's right. Yeah,
That's
that's
wild.
it is a very, very unique design. And again,
So-
this is currently, let me read this off. So photos from CAG, US Hawk, and trade shows have shown a new suppressor design being tested by the US military for the MFMS multi-function muzzle system by Strategic Sciences, designed by Russ Oliver, the OSS founder before they changed to Huxworks, at the request of IWTSD. It is a two-part flow-through suppressor made using the additive manufacturing process, meaning 3D printed. The first part reflexes over the barrel, so it is a reflex suppressor, and incorporates a unique multi-chamber geometry. The second stacks on, creating a suppressor within a suppressor. Marketing data at SHOT Show 23 shows promising performance across calibers and barrel lengths. See the last slide for example. IWTSD, Irregular Warfare Technology Support Directorate, gosh dang it, develops advanced tech to improve mission success, reduce risk, and help counter asymmetric threats. The MFMS supports that mission by improving effectiveness, survivability, and shooter safety through reduced gas exposure. Additionally, Cans of Com recently awarded a contract to Millbrook Strategic Sciences, Inc. to supply these suppressors to their warfighters. Head over to SSD Collection if you want to read more. And they do have a good article on these actual suppressors. But I do have some of the more detailed shots of it so you guys can see in more detail what it looks like on the inside. So what it appears to be with this cutaway is a direct thread reflex suppressor that I guess indexes only off of the barrel, so there's no additional muzzle device needed. Or like the collar on the old the old reflex suppressors on the Mark 12s. It is a very unique design. Why it has all of these different chambers and whatnot, I think somebody in the chat earlier said if the gas doesn't know which way to go, it gets confused and slows down, which is probably accurate. This maze is just to make sure the gas has no idea which way it's supposed to go before eventually exiting out somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is wacky.
Yeah, that's definitely a design choice for sure. When I first seen the additional clip-on piece, I first thought that it was something that they had set up for pistols that would slide right on the dust cover or...
Okay, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Basically not a threaded suppressor. What is the
Trial
Mass Effect device things?
The Mass Effect? Sorry, what?
That it basically goes on the gun, but in front of the barrel and doesn't touch the barrel. The Strike Industries Mass Effect compensator.
No, the mass driver. Yes.
Yeah,
mass driver.
I
see what you're saying.
I am tired. I apologize.
No, you're already good. Let me see here. The gas is dizzy. Very true. Just a wacky design, and they did put out some numbers. Supposedly, of its effectiveness. And now you can see that they have different versions. They have a 338 Lapua, 308, 300 Blackout, 5.56, and then on different barrel lengths or whatnot. So with the regular, let me see, recoil acceleration. So that's performance measure capabilities. Trying to see, where does it say? Okay, so with the MFMD flash hider, which the first suppressor part is mostly flash reduction and some sound, and then if you want the full sound, you have to clip on the actual suppressor to your suppressor to get the most suppression out of your suppressor, if that makes sense. So with the flash hider on, they claim that it gets rid of 99.9% of the flash. That's its main job. And then they can say the sound at the muzzle is 143, 147. But if you clip on the additional piece, you get up to an extra 10 to 15 decibels off, depending on your configuration. And the flash apparently goes down to 0. Now, of course, that is their claim, and you can see some of the heat maps of it is quite wacky because it keeps the heat back underneath the barrel itself, because again, it's a reflex suppressor. So the barrel is here and the gas kind of goes around towards the back, and that's where it's the hottest. And it keeps the muzzle part of the suppressor the coolest. That might help mitigate flash if that part of the suppressor muzzle device thing is keeping the coolest and you're keeping all of those hot gases towards the rear. It's a wacky design. Yeah. Mercenary says new suppressor design, including with your ACR purchase, only $54,000. Well, listen, for $54,000, it better come with the next gen suppressor. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I in the thumbnail on that, I had put it for a heartbeat monitor optional for $54,000 for the ACR.
Again, if they're going to be charging that kind of money for that, they better give me something with it. Something cool. Let me see if these homies are around. And where is Lance? Where's Logan? Send Logan an invite as well.
I think Logan was in chat. Yeah,
he was in the chat. Yeah, but where is he in my actual? Have I not messaged him in a long time? There he is. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, as Jake says, if they just made it look normal on the outside. I don't know why they decided to make it look like this on the outside. Because my guess is that the chambers are not only up and down, but also vertically. So we get the top-down view of it, right, cut in half. But my guess is that there's also different chambers if we had a cutaway the other way. You would also see that there's like different sections walled off each way. That would be my guess. And the design itself is so convoluted and complex. And if you follow the path, you can tell that there's like diverting paths that bring it up this way. There's diverting paths that bring it back down all the way around. And there's like a big expansion chamber. And much the same with the add-on piece. The add-on piece also has a big direct link to the underside as well to keep the gases, I don't know, from escaping fast enough. And I mean, look, it looks complicated enough that they could tell me something that it does, and I'd be like, well, it looks believable, I guess. Logan, how's your night going, man?
Going pretty well. Just on my way driving out to Montana for a Steel Challenge match tomorrow morning.
Oh, man, you're doing a lot of driving. You're driving every weekend, homie.
Pretty much. Yeah, and then a couple weeks from now, got the Area 1 match down in Boise.
Heck yeah, awesome.
So that'll be 9 hours of driving for me.
Okay, well, Richard, I know that you really, really want to talk about this, so let's move on. All right, so everybody remembers our favorite group of movie stars, or TV show stars, I should say, with Tim Harmson leading Wild Shots, brought to you by American Stories Entertainment, alongside Iraq veteran 1488, Scooch, or S-double-ought, Ooch, whatever you want to say, 22 Plinkster, and Mr. Guns and Gear. Is that right, Richard?
Indeed it is. And before we get into this, can you do me a favor and cover the couple of super chats while I use the I gotta pee real quick. Sorry.
Oh, no problem at all, homie. Sig Sauer for $4.99 says, we already put out a MFMS, the P320. Maybe fires, maybe sits. That's true. You're way ahead of the game. Sig stays winning. Thank you very much for the $4.99, Sig. Jekyll for $9.99 says, make America gay again. No homo. You know what? I don't believe you, sir. But thank you very much for the $9.99, homie. Clay Cable drops $1.99. Doesn't say a thing, just backs away slowly. Thank you very much for the $1.99. If you did mean to say something, let me know. Because other than that, thanks for the $2, sir. Mitzvot TV for $1.99 says the lead pink rocket. That is kind of what it appears like. Yes. Sorry. Over on Rumble, Dogman Defense based 3D printer says, keep walking, Sigas. This is a PDP neighborhood. I think a PDP might be my next striker fired handgun. I'm gonna test
Everything I
it
heard about has been pretty good.
Yeah, I think that might be what I check out next. Probably a standard polymer frame and then eventually a steel frame and see how that works out. Thank you very much, Mitzvot, for the $1.99. And for another $1.99, Mitzvot TV says, return to Monkey, Vortex Flash Hider, GWatt goodness. Yeah, I mean, if all you want is flash reduction, there are some flash hiders that do a really good job. Now, if we back up while we're waiting for Richard, if we back up to the suppressor for just a second, I don't know if these will ever be available on the civilian market, but if they are, it will actually be counted as two suppressors because there's the suppressor and the suppressor that attaches to the suppressor. So that will be two different NFA transfers if the HPA doesn't go into effect next week, which I was actually watching a live stream of them debated on the Senate floor. Most boring thing ever. These guys are arguing over, hundreds of billions of dollars or whatnot. But that could possibly, they're thinking about, or at least they're alleging that they're going to get it passed before Monday. So we could legitimately see in our lifetimes, which I never thought, suppressors removed from the NFA.
It'll be super cool if it passes. I'm not holding my breath for it to pass, though.
Mm-hmm. We might talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the show. Just about what might happen if it does end up going through. Did he do it? Oh, shoot. All right. Huge ass for $1.99 says back shots by Big Daddy's Unlimited Spunk. Ugh. Thank you very much for that, huge ass. $1.99. Jake says this show belongs in 2008. Very sad. Very sad indeed, sir. I agree with you. But hopefully it will be quite funny. So this is with our favorite band of YouTube OGs, GunTube OGs, bringing you the heat with Wild Shots. So what did you find out about this, Richard?
Well, I did a little bit of digging, and on stream we looked into American Stories Entertainment, which is the presenter of this, which is the studio. Now, American Stories has their filings available to where we could pull them up. And in doing so, I noticed something that sounded familiar. You mentioned the name High Caliber Studios, and it struck something with me. And I said, what is High Caliber Studios? So I started looking. Well, it turns out that they are registered, and their president is a Sherry McKnight. Well, the name McKnight sounded familiar.
Name sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, very much so. So I started looking around a little more, and then I found High Caliber Firearms, and then I found the registered address for High Caliber Firearms, which I then looked up, and it turns out that it's all Big Daddy Unlimited. They're all registered to 7600 Northwest 5th Place, Gainesville, Florida. So when you search that address on Zillow or on Realtor.com, you can see that it was just sold in March for $5 million.
Right, and that's the old BDU address.
Right.
Right.
So the former BDU people sold the building to the new BDU people that's being rebranded as High Caliber.
Mhm.
And they have a 20%, High Caliber Studios has a 20% stake in American Stories Entertainment. They are 20% shareholders. And I have no doubt that they went through Leviathan to contact these guys, because on Leviathan's own Instagram page right now, they're still promoting something called the Wide Open Trigger, which
Did you
might be
send me-
relevant.
Let me pull that up. Did you send me the link to Leviathan?
No, I didn't. I can real quick. All I did was click on your Instagram, and they were the one of 4 people underneath of you that was following. So I clicked it, and it took me right to their page.
Oh, do they actually follow me? That's funny.
Indeed, they do. Indeed, they do.
Let me pull this tab. So this is a Leviathan group. Let's see.
Oh,
this
is it not there now?
I don't see it.
Uh,
Or is this not the one that they were following me? Because this one says they don't follow me. So let's see. Leviathan group.
I sent you the screenshot from it.
Is the Wide Open Trigger even sold anymore?
Well, there's variations of it that are sold on a website called Performance Triggers. Now, if you look at the books on Performance Triggers,
Did you send it to us? Oh, you sent it to us in the. Okay, that's Leviathan Defense.
okay, is that someone different?
It's the same company. That is their gun store. So
that's what I thought.
Yeah. So yeah, but Leviathan, the other one is just a marketing agency, and then they have their own gun product stuff. So I can pull this up right there. So this is Leviathan Defense, and yeah, what do you know? That is the Wide Open Trigger on their Instagram for some reason. Although I wonder how long ago that was posted.
Well, I thought it might be relevant regardless of how long ago it was posted, because even if they're not selling that, Performance Triggers is still selling something called the Forced Reset Safety.
This was only 16 weeks ago, and Wide Open Triggers has been out of business for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, quite a few years at this point.
Funny story. So I actually tried a Wide Open Trigger that somebody had sent into me to review like a year ago, and it broke. So I was never able to get more than like 5 rounds out of the thing. So, and I have a real rare breed trigger 3-position, and that thing actually does work. So yeah, the rare breed like never worked for me at all. So good.
What I thought was important to this, as far as the timing of this coming out right now, with the rare breed, the agreement that they have reached with the DOJ, and basically them acting as the DOJ lapdog to go after anybody else who is making anything similar to this, right? Well, Performance Triggers is selling the what do they call it? The active safety, or the forced reset safety. Yes, that right there, the super selector.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So they sell the G Flex as well, which is for the Glock, and they sell the super safeties. I have no doubt in my mind that Lawrence and Rare Breed are going to sue this company again.
100%.
And then all of the customer records are going to go to court and be available for the ATF to grab again. Now, if you look at the prices on some of this stuff, like $100 for a super safety, it's
3MR for $279.
Yeah. The G Flex is $260. They're making the overhead on these versus the margins it's crazy, because these parts are tiny. They're tiny. They take up almost no space. And
so another thing that I'll pull up too got me thinking is the Kono trigger. Do you guys remember this? So
Trigger Empire.
Well, it's not going to be Trigger Empire if it'll pull up.
Texas Triggers now.
No, that was Julian's company.
Oh.
So it's not Texas Trigger. Yes, Kono AK Trigger System First Strike. So it's on Plinkify.com, but now you have the Kono AK Trigger Assisted Reset from our good friend Alex. And he is making AK forced reset triggers. Now, the AK trigger system is the interesting one because Lawrence does not have a patent on that. So that is the one area where you actually can get away with selling forced reset triggers for the AK because they don't have a patent from Lawrence. So Lawrence can't enforce anything on them, which is why Alex moved away from the AR.
Speaking of Lawrence and the AK forced reset triggers, do we know if he ever got a hold of the guys or not? Like he came on and he said that he wanted to talk with the guys from Alpha Tactical. I
haven't talked to Peter or Jackie in a minute, but I could reach out and see how they're doing. I know they were just at Bash 2-3 weeks ago, so I'd have to reach out and see how they're doing. But that's an easy thing I could do. But yeah, that is the hard R, the hard reset trigger from Kono. Funny, I did add some new stream clips in here now that we're talking about this, so I thought we might as well show some of these off.
Do you like BBC? Perhaps have an affinity for ladyboys and SIG firearms? But do you like BBC? Perhaps have an affinity for ladyboys and SIG firearms, but don't have time to go to SDI? Don't work on your own gun? Send it to us so you can watch us work on it. Here at Cucker Customs, the premium place to meet other out-of-shape, middle-aged men.
Thank you very much for that.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I think Small Ball made that for us, so thank you very much.
That was Thug.
Oh, that was Thug. Okay, well, thank you, Thug, for that. I appreciate it, Thug.
And he's going through a rough time right now, so if everybody could say a prayer for Thug, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm thinking of you, bud. I know he doesn't watch very often, but he's going through a tough time, so.
Bloody hell, we just got our asses kicked.
Yeah, just a couple little clips that we had thrown in there. All right, Cucker Customs.
One thing I did want you to pull up before we go, it was the list of the number of businesses that they have registered at that address right now.
Where
I'll
is
pull
that
one
clip hiding at? Because I looked for it, but I didn't see it in our messages, or I don't know if you had put that on your server.
I think that one might have been on my server. I'll pull the actual link for you here.
Okay. Huge ass for 199 says somehow BDU returned. True. Very true.
It's always BDU.
You know, what do they say? No one's ever really gone.
Yeah.
That's BDU. For sure.
Where is it?
Mike Honcho asks for something very specific for some
Have
reason.
you ever been feasted by an African king? It'll be me.
God damn it.
You're welcome, Mike. Appreciate it. That's good. Well, it's true. Big Daddy Unlimited, not Big Daddy Limited. That's funny. It's not Big Daddy Limited. It's Big Daddy Unlimited. Never again. Yeah. Did you send it to me, Richard?
I'm trying to find it right now. I have.
Oh, Big Daddy. Okay, sorry. It was in a completely different chat, I think. My Caliber Firearms, American Stores, Realtor, Bizopedia.
Here, I'll find the list of them real quick. I'll just go to the actual site.
Profiles. No. Because I didn't click on all of the links for it. Company search. Nope. Performance triggers, yeah, with the G-Flex.
Yeah, there was 20. Long story short, there's 21 businesses registered to that same address, and all roads lead to Big Daddy.
Well, to the McKnights.
Yes,
they keep moving around. They are the unsquashable cockroach.
I did find the overall list. Big Daddy Enterprises Inc., Optum, Big Daddy Guns Inc., Big Daddy Unlimited Inc., American Gun Coalition Inc., Blackstock Inc., which I do have the link for that one pulled up, Bippy Films LLC, Win America
Bippy?
Unlimited Inc. Yeah, Bippy, Bippy.
Okay.
Win America Unlimited Inc., Big Daddy Operations Inc., Big Daddy Armory LLC, Freedom Events LLC, Canaveral Political Strategies LLC, High Caliber Firearms, Global Munitions, 7600 Northwest 5th Place, Big Daddy Guns, America Unlimited, and Nothing Strategies LLC are all registered at the exact same spot.
So it's politics, it's media, it's gun stuff, it's a little bit of everything.
Correct. And all of these companies have not a whole lot of debt, but massive assets, and they're getting loans to buy, substantial amounts of properties. And
you know why it's
apparently also enough to bankroll several creators to start doing their own TV show as well.
Well,
right
at
after
partially, they're the minority stakeholder in it, if I remember correctly. Right, they're only 20%, at least. Although American Stories Entertainment, is that also BDU?
So they partnered with High Caliber partnered with another advertising agency. I would have to look up the specific name for them. I have it right here. But the other advertising agency is also a 20% stakeholder in the company, and they all use registered agents, but basically all roads eventually lead back to BDU, even if it's not them directly. The funding is coming from like sources. And I thought it was funny that Leviathan is still promoting their triggers, right? And tapping into the Leviathan.
Well, that checks out because Leviathan also, they've lost a lot of content creators, and they're apparently down to 3 guys in a warehouse or in a office space in a mall, right? That's what Deskpop was telling us last time we had him on the show.
Yeah.
But regardless of all of that, BDU is back. They're behind this. There's a new media push. Selling Triggers, about to get sued again. Congratulations. But out of all of this stuff, I am looking forward to Wild Shots getting a weekly 2005 History Channel special in 2025. I am looking forward to that. And they'll probably take down every video we make on it, but it'll at least be funny.
I wonder what have they said at all, like what style of shows it can be on? Because it can be like the old Top Shot show or something like that.
Well, I don't know anything about it other than it's called Wild Shots. If I go to, let me pull this up real fast. Actually, I don't know if I'm signed in on this browser, but if I look up Iraq veteran, because he made a tweet about it, but I don't know anything about the show itself. So he pinned this and said, "We're getting the damn band back together." And it's just the thumbnail, the poorly made Photoshop thumbnail of
Back
all
together. Did they do something all together beforehand?
I mean, they've been around since the beginning of GunTube, so I think they've all done stuff together. I think it's just about collaborating together is what they mean. So Iraq veteran says airs in September, so we have about 4 months to go. Mr. B says the band in question, and it's a bunch of homeless rats, which I find funny. Mac is the worst. Straight to VHS. What WTF? This looks like crap. Give me context. What is this about? Yeah. It's going to be bad. Whatever they end up doing, it's going to be bad, but I hope it's funny. No, Iraq veteran didn't marry a gun bunny. He's with a gun bunny after divorcing his wife. It's different. It is the late stage GunTuber pipeline. At some point, you got to go on TRT, get jacked, cheat on your wife, get with a bimbo. I think that's just, unfortunately, that's most GunTubers' late game strategy.
Yeah, it seems to be the way to go. I am dropping you 2 links here. The first one is Blackstock, which was one of the other companies that was registered there. And then the other one is Quadrant Sales and Marketing, which is the other 20% stakeholder in the American Stories Entertainment.
And yeah, they're registered to that same address, 76 Northwest 5th Place.
Yeah. I thought the name on that one was interesting.
It says it is interesting, but it says it's inactive.
Yeah.
It has one officer, so which is their registered agent, I imagine. Yeah, because it's their registered agent address.
But they set up so many of these individual shell companies which only have, minimal employees. And
Well,
it's very strange.
I wonder if they planned to do stuff with these, but this one here is at least an active one. Started in September 2003, so this is from a long time ago. This has been around for a while, and it's still active. It's almost as
This
old
one
as
is
I am.
located around the corner from them, not far. But this is the other 20% shareholder in American Stories Entertainment.
Right, so it's just, well, yeah, so it's also, and they're in the actual
Yes.
companies right next to them too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I thought that might be useful for everybody right now, because everybody's saying, great, we killed the NFA, suppressors are back on the menu, we've got forced reset triggers, we don't have to get, we don't have to go for the rest of it.
This one waiver was something.
All right, homies. I hope you all had a wonderful night. We will see you later. God bless.
Man, these people took my kids from me, then they closed my bank account. I got so much anger in me, got no way to take it out. Think I'm stuck in the matrix. It's my nitrate that I'm posting on Twitter. They telling me, hey, don't say that. Can't see me in public, I'm driving the Encore Maybach. With all of the money and fame, I still can't get my kids back. With all of the money and fame, I still don't get to see my children.